Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos, and welcome to this Tol Dagor plus 26 that I did. Now, as of the time of the recording this, Season 2 is not quite over, but it is my belief that this is going to be the world's best run in terms of like Radar IO score of the season, failing some other team doing something incredible this last week here. So let me go ahead and show you that run. So this Tol Dagor, the affixes are Fortified, Bolstering, Skittish, and Reaping. Very, very good combination of affixes for Tol Dagor, because Fortified being active is a pretty non-issue when you get almost all of the enemies you need to be killed with the cannons anyway, right? So you'll see here we're just fighting these crabs. One of us has a weak aura that's actually marking the highest health target with an X, and we're just attacking that X preferentially, and that is going to stop us from having a bolstering problem. As long as we're always attacking the highest health target, we're not going to bolster anything too big. That's a very useful weak aura. For bolstering weeks. I'll link it in the description here. You'll see we're distracting that parasite pack. One of the parasites didn't quite get hit by that distract, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. We can actually manage this with a pull here. Okay, so you see how we're pulling these 4 parasites. That's going to cause the 5th parasite to aggro, and if it runs through those crabs will come at us also. So we're coming over to the side here so that the parasite paths to us in a way that it doesn't run on top of anything else. And then it's the highest health target in combat with us, so we're going to switch to it, hard focus it, and kill everything so that we don't get a bolstering problem. So, Tol Dagor, a dungeon where the bosses are pretty hard, but on fortified weeks they're not too bad. The first boss, one trait that's going to be very useful for you is Vampiric Speed. Vampiric Speed is something that I actually don't normally have on my gear. You'll notice I'm running a kind of weird trait setup here. I only have 2 Deadshot, and I have 2 Keep Your Wits About You, which if you watch my Outlaw guides is a little bit of a weird thing to do. The reason I'm doing that is because the chest piece I'm wearing, the Wits Ace piece, has a Vampiric Speed. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to switch out after this boss to a different piece. I'm going to zone out and switch my Azerite. But for this boss only, I want to have that Vampiric Speed for the healing, because there are a bunch of ads that die at times when you most need healing during sandstorms on this fight. So our strategy for this boss, pretty simple. Kill the ads very quickly. We'll dispel the enrage off of the Sand Queen as needed here. That's gonna be Venter's job, our Resto Druid. You'll see our composition is we've got a composition that may be kind of typical of season 2 here. We got 3 Outlaw Rogues, 1 Prot Warrior, and 1 Resto Druid. So very, very strong composition right now. Possibly would be better with like a Windwalker, but I don't think this composition is bad at all. I think you could absolutely make an argument that this is one of the strongest things you can do there. You saw when I got Upheaval there, I just vanished. Upheaval can be mitigated with Vanish, Cloak of Shadows, any kind of immunity, or you can use like a displacement movement effect. So Grappling Hook, Shadow Step, Blink, Wild Charge. These all work. Some of them are harder than others, and you kind of need to learn the timing based on your own class, because different class abilities you're going to want to activate at different times. Like Grappling Hook, you usually want to fire your hook out before you would have to blink if you were a mage or whatever. If you're a mage, I think it's at 0.3 seconds before it shows up that you need to click your blink button. And most other instant displacement effects would be the same way, so Shadow Step also. Anyways, that's on this difficulty, even on Fortified, you need a lot of help to survive an Upheaval. So our strategy is to take 0 damage from it. Except for if Venter gets it, he's going to bear form it. He's got like Guardian Affinity and Switch Hitter traits, which means that when he switches to bear form, he gets a bunch of avoidance, and then he can like Barskin also too. So he's actually extremely tanky when he switches over to bear form that way. But for everybody else, me, Yoda, and Kinbote, the 3 rogues, we're going to be activating one of our many defensive abilities to survive it. There's basically no way we can get hit, and Venter's going to sit bear form there. You saw he just sat bear form, took the hit, took a lot of damage, but he's fine. He'll survive it. Ooh, and you'll see there I ran into a sand trap. That's bad. We try and avoid doing that. That's nearly kills me here. It doesn't even claim my cheat death. I'm running cheat death here, and I don't know procking it, but obviously that's very, very, very bad. Try not to do that. To stand in those traps, like I completely missed it. And you'll see that the fight, kind of looking a bit bad here. There's my health stone, and my health pot have been used. I still have my engineering belt shield, and I still have my cheat death available for defensive, and I do also have my Cloak of Shadows, but I don't have my Vanish because I used it for a threat there for Skittish against the drones. So it's kind of becoming a bit of a crisis time here. I could use my cloak to survive some like running over some sand traps or whatever. But I don't. That would leave me kind of defenseless against a Upheaval. I would have to use my Grappling Hook, which is not an 100% success rate. Like there's an opportunity to make a mistake when you do a grappling hook. So I'd much rather use the Cloak of Shadows or the Vanish against that. Anyways, boss is almost dead here. Even unfortified on a plus 26, it takes a long time to kill this boss and is doing quite a lot of damage to us. You'll notice Venter sustaining 40k HPS here. Does still have all his mana though, so it's fine. It's not like we're in kind of a mana rush situation here. And we're taking care of the boss. This will be the last upheaval phase. This, I think, is the second hardest boss in here. The last boss, I think, is a little harder, but and sometimes this boss actually feels harder than the last boss. Anyways, boss goes down. Now it's going to be time for me to go reforge my Azerite. So I'm gonna go, zoom around, go back outside of the dungeon, and swap away from my Vampiric Speed chest piece because I only really wanted it for that first boss. And I'm going to go back to a third Deadshot piece and drop this Witch trait for a Deadshot, which is going to increase my damage. I'm not... Looking back at this, I kind of wish I just hadn't run the Vampiric Speed and had just relied on Venter to heal me. That would have saved some time, and at the end of this run, you'll see that like a couple extra seconds would have been pretty cool. Not for the world record or anything. We secured that either way, but we might have been able to two-chest this dungeon if we'd been a couple seconds faster throughout here. Anyways, the door is open, so now we're going through this part of the dungeon is all about pulling zero trash, or pulling close to zero trash. This might change next season when the cannons have limited shots, but as of right now, cannons are such a dominant strategy. And you can see here, we sap blind some crocodiles, then Yoda's going to pull this thug, everybody else is going to run through. The thug has true sight, so he can't shroud it, but Yoda is going to create some distance from it while it's shouting, and then he's going to vanish, and that's going to be our plan to get through here. Meanwhile, me and Kinbote are going to sap these two mobs back there, move on up, everybody's going to get through. We're identifying right now where the buffs are, okay? And then we're going to update our saps to be on these strikers, and then I'm going to go back and get this buff here, and our goal is going to be we're going to try and get access to all of the buffs as quickly as possible. So I'm looking across, identifying which buffs are on the other side. There's one there against the far corner. Kimbote is going over to get it. We've got the two other ones there, so we're going to have access to all 4 buffs. If you'd like to learn how to get all 4 buffs regardless of where they are, I do have a YouTube video on that. Just if you search Dratnos Tol Dagor, you'll find it. It's like how to get every buff. So I'd recommend that if you're trying to figure out how to optimize that and do that as quickly as possible. It's very easy when you have 3 rogues though, because you can just kind of split up and each do a different cage, and that really saves time. Okay, so we're all through now. Nerf and everybody is ready. By the way, my team here, very very stacked team. Not sure if you've looked at the names, but Nerf Clap and Yoda RR are 2 reigning MDI champions from Method NA. Kinbote is the world's most geared rogue, maybe. Excuse me. His item level is 422, which as of right now is very, very high. And he has 6 sockets across his gear also. So he's just completely monstrous and also an extremely skilled player. And then Venter, very, very powerful healer as well. And that's our team. And then there's me, who's somehow got invited to do keys with this group. I'm not entirely sure how, but I'm very, very happy about it. So again, we focus down the Brine Scale or the Sea Speakers a little bit here, because they're the ones that are the most annoying, and then we'll kill off the Arsonists a little bit later. This is a little bit inefficient for bolstering, but it's an increased safety thing there. You'll notice I said it's happening there. That happened because I got 5 buffs, as you can see in the middle. These are actually the best possible combination of 5 buffs, so very happy about that. You may have noticed earlier somebody said Weebs in Ayaya. That's Yoda's 5 buff announcer. I don't know if Kinbote has one in this group, but I'd recommend it if you're an Outlaw rogue. Have a weak aura that does a slash say when you get a 5 buff. That'll make you, help your group be aware of it, help the other rogues in your party be jealous of you. That's a good thing to do as well. And so now we're pulling into this next pack. And this is there are some ways to skip more of the enemies than we're currently skipping here. There are some arsonists that you don't technically have to pull from this little square over here on the right. But we're pulling them just for safety, so that we don't add them during the boss fight, because they will bolster if they are added during the boss fight. So there's one in particular that is very liable to pull if you're not extremely careful. And we're also just pulling them because it doesn't really add much time. Like going from 5 enemies in a pack to 4 doesn't really save that much time for our composition. Like we're full cleaving anyway, so it only adds a couple seconds to add an extra target. And is not a noticeable time loss. Really, as long as we can survive the pull the same way and we don't have to use any defensives or anything, we can do pretty much any number of targets at the same time, because we're just blade flurrying onto all of them, thunderclapping all of them, swiping all of them. That's one of the huge upsides of this composition, actually, is that you really just scale beautifully with any number of targets pulled. Okay, so now it's reaping time. Another reason that we pulled all those there is to spawn reaping right now. Now you're going to notice all of us start jumping. The reason we're jumping is because in Tol Dagor, Reaping Waves will teleport to you if you're jumping. Like there was ones from the bottom of the instance, those like the crabs that we killed earlier, and those they'll just jump right. They'll port right to you if they can't draw a path to you. And a way you can force that to happen is by jumping. This is like related to the skip or the snapping strategies that you'll see in like a Tol Dagor in the MDI. And also, I think in my Tol Dagor video, if you want to check that one out, Tol Dagor 24 with a similar combination of players as in this video. It also should be up on my channel by the time you see this one here too. Anyways, that's the Reaping Wave dealt with. I think that's the only Reaping Wave we're going to deal with the old-fashioned way. The next three we're all going to deal with cannons. So anyways, Nerf is now going to pull this Warden. This Warden isn't actually going to get us in combat with the other mobs here. The Warden was fighting those Sea Speakers. Those Sea Speakers are still not in combat with us. We didn't move close enough to them to aggro them, and we haven't done anything hostile to them. So they're just going to reset after we kill off this Warden here. And you'll see here, the Scallywag here also, I think it's not going to reset because I just tagged it with the pistol shot there. Which is going to mean we can kill it off. But if I hadn't tagged it there, it would have also reset and gone back to full health. Okay, so now it's time for this next pack. Again, we weren't in combat with it. We've got some markers down. Depending on your composition, you may have a different priority for kicks. Like if you have access to a bunch of purge effects, then Watery Domes going off isn't too huge there. But we have a couple of Arcane Torrents, but I think we only have 2 in this group. So it's important for us to kick the Watery Domes wherever possible, especially because we just used 2 Torrents on 1 dome there. And we don't actually have any hard purges, like we don't have a Shaman purge, we don't have a Mage spell steal with this group. That's one of the problems of the Triple Outlaw group is there are some like utility spells that other classes bring that you just have no access to. Like if we added the Monk, we'd get the Monk Dispel and Ring of Peace and what's the other one, Tiger's Lust, and we don't have that kind of stuff. But 3 rogues means a lot of gouges. Like we can stop pretty much anything from casting indefinitely with just chain gouging and blinding and cheap shotting and between the eyesing and all that stuff. So there's actually a lot of mobs that we can control. Like when I did an underop with this group that you may also see on this YouTube channel, I haven't recorded it yet, but I may end up doing it. There's like Wicked Frenzies we can keep CC'd forever with this comp. So that is pretty cool. Let's move on to the second boss fight though, Jess Hallis. Again, this one is probably the easiest boss fight. Maybe the second easiest. Maybe the third boss is a little easier. I don't know. It depends on what your group struggles with. Both this boss and the third boss are very trivial for a group that is doing this on a high key and can fight with the first and the last boss. There should basically be no way to wipe to the second or the third boss. There's a couple of this boss has a kick check. Like you have kicks that you need to assign, and a way to wipe on this boss is if people are miscommunicating their kicks. So that's the error that can happen here. Whereas the third boss has the barrel mechanic that you can potentially mess up. But if as long as you can handle that, the numbers checks on these fights are much lower than the other 2 bosses. You'll see here Venter not having to do very much HPS at all to keep everybody topped, especially compared to what he had to do on the first boss and what he'll have to do on the last boss. So the boss reaches 70%, phases, and starts opening up these cages. These mobs will not bolster, the raiders in here. They do bolster if you pull them out of the cages before the boss fight starts, and then they'll also give enemy forces count. But if you let them be released by the boss, then they won't give count, but they also won't bolster or trigger any on-death affix. So they won't leave a Reaping Ghost, they won't drop Sanguine. They actually change what mob they are when the boss gets pulled, basically, if they're not in combat. Okay, so we need to immediately interrupt Jess here. That's my job. So Jess starts his motivating cry. I'm going to kick him. A pug strategy you might see is just leave him casting so you don't have to deal with him and kill all the trash first. But we can't afford to do that on a high key. Well, actually, we can afford to do anything because we have infinite time because it's Tol Dagor. But we still want to go as fast as possible, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to deal with Jess and Bobby simultaneously. So my kick is on Motivating Cry, and then we're going to have Bobby. There are 2 people assigned to kick Bobby's Vicious Mauling. We're fighting in this spot here because that means that if Bobby goes and runs away and casts a Fear down the hallway at the same time that Jess casts a Flashing Daggers, we can line of sight both of them by going to this corner here, because Jess will be in here, so we can line his daggers here, and Bobby will be down here, so this wall will create line against his daggers. So this is a really good space to fight this boss, because we can, as you see it right now, we just come into this corner and we're lining both abilities here. And that prevents us from having to assign another kick to Bobby's Fear. It means that we can completely ignore Bobby's Fear in terms of kicks, and that just means we have 2 kicks on Jess and 2 kicks on Bobby's Mauling, and that way, regardless of what happens, there's no way we can get caught out on kicks. I see a lot of groups here get feared during that combo, but this is the positioning you need to make that not happen. I hope I explained how that works. With the secret is the spot that lines both their casts simultaneously. Okay, anyways, Jess going down now. We're just cleaving off Bobby. We're like, damage to Bobby is irrelevant. We're going to kill Jess first, and then Bobby's going to run away. It's actually a good thing to have it here because it's going to give the Outlaw Rogues more damage through the Keep Your Wits About You trait. That's one of the nice things about Outlaw Rogues is we get a lot of damage in 2-target situations like that. We'll get even more in 8.2. I'm looking forward to that. The change to Keep Your Wits About You, which is a nerf in large target situations, is actually going to be a pretty large buff in those 2-target situations. Anyways, now what's happening is Nerf is letting us execute a skip. So these mobs here, a lot of them have True Sight. What Nerf's going to do is he's going to run up, pull them all, and then come back down to this floor here. We're going to wait for them all to group up on him, and then we're going to just sneak on through, and then Nerf is going to die, and we're going to res him on the other side. So that's the way that we're going to skip more trash here. Again, any time we spend killing trash right now is time we could just freely get later with the cannons. I'm going to distract this officer here and then sap it. If you can do that when you distract a True Sight mob, you can then sneak up behind it and sap it if you're quick. So that was what I did here. Now we're moving through this part. Nerf is coming through. He's been rezzed. He's on his way back, and we're starting up our shrouds, coming on through to the next area here. And it's cannon time. Now is the time where you see we're at 30% enemy forces. Every single remaining point of enemy forces we are going to get with the cannons. So 70% of the dungeon. We're going to get up to here. Somebody's probably going to engineering belt that marine on down or nerf knock it. Yeah, there goes Venter, knocking down those two mobs there. Meanwhile, Kinbote is getting in the cannon. He pulls the pack over to the right, and then once these are all grouped, he's going to start hitting all 3 here. Me, I'm not in the cannon this time. My advice for you is if you do get into the cannon, zoom your camera all the way in to make it easier to shoot here. And also the reason that we have a rogue go into the cannon is because a rogue can tricks the tank. And the tricks won't actually go on cooldown or anything. It'll just be up for the full 30 seconds. It won't turn into the 6-second buff. And you can just get full threat transfer of every cannon shot from the rogue to the tank. So now Nerf is going inside. He's going to start pulling some mobs in there. Meanwhile, Kinbote has tricked him and is just going to kill off this set of Flamecasters here. Yoda is going on a stealth mission to the other side. And he's going to start using the cannon to get the trash over on the other side. Meanwhile, I'm just over here looking to get an opportunity to... I'm really looking to see if there's going to be any problematic casts that are going to be bad for Kinbote in the cannon here, or for Nerf, or some kind of handcuff, any kind of cast like that. And I'm looking for an opportunity to do like a gouge or cheap shot, provide a charge there like I gave to Nerf to get out of line of sight of those shoot casts there. Now I hear that Yoda's in distress over voice comms. He's having some trouble, so I'm coming over here to make sure that he's going to be okay. It looks like he is indeed going to be okay. He nearly died there, but he is going to be fine. And I'm looking here to like throw a blind if I need to, or yeah, there you see I'd use it between the eyes to make sure that Flamecaster didn't end up killing him. He would have been fine though. He would have been fine. He didn't actually need my help. He thought he might have for a second. But yeah, this is how we're making so much time up here. You'll see our enemy forces all the way up to 60% now, just killing all these stuff by using the cannons. It's going to be a lot harder next patch, but maybe by the time you're watching this, the cannons each only have 5 shots, and our strategy is going to have evolved. But for now, we can be really liberal and pull really slowly, and just shoot a bunch of cannon shots, and they're all extremely powerful. You'll see here Yoda's tricked me, and I'm staying out of line of sight of these things, and that's going to stop them from killing him. And then by using this little thing here to line of sight, I'm going to not get shot either. So that's those all taken care of. Now we're just going to go back and help make sure that all of the enemy forces get taken from inside that we need here. And then we get to the required amount of count before we go through. It looks like it's going to be one more pull before that happens. Ooh, you'll see there Kinbote accidentally shot nerfed. That's That's bad. We try to avoid that. It does happen, but it's obviously that slows us down a little bit. That costs us 5 seconds. It's kind of unavoidable. I don't know. I mean, it's avoidable, but like it's something that you have to be ready for here is for the tank to die. One thing the tank can do is spell reflect if they think they're in a dangerous spot. If you spell reflect, the damage will get reflected back at the rogue, which will just pop their cheat death instead of killing you, or it'll kill them if their cheat's down. You'll see there he goes down again. Now we're in some trouble. Kinbote is getting killed here as well. He got handcuffed, and it's going to be on me to save the pull here. I have to kill these things off, and a lot of them are pretty bolstered. Now I've drawn threat on them as well. These shoots will probably one-shot me, or will at least claim my cheat death, so I need to make sure that I'm interrupting their shoots by shooting them with my cannons before they do. Now we've started another Reaping Wave, so I'm just here making sure I don't kill Nerfed, or kill Nerf. I don't know if I'm probably Nerfed, but making sure I don't kill Nerf. Shooting, basically, I'm making it so that the damage is at the edge of where I'm shooting instead of shooting right at the middle of something. You'll see nerf goes down again. So this sequence here, if it had been cleaner, we could have saved 30, 45 seconds on our run, maybe even more. We do end up getting through here eventually. This is still a huge time saver, and other groups may have done this in a way that looks more clean, but was a lot slower. The way that we did this, splitting up into 2 groups, pulling big. Those are things that might look, sketchy when things are like that, but at the end of the day, we were still in and out here and got all of the enemy forces in the dungeon in like 3 minutes, 4 minutes or something. So very, very powerful strategy. Venter's now just going to res here. I'm going to make sure to not start hitting this cannon until he does, and then I'm going to start hitting it. You can't hit the cannon until the res goes through, because then the res won't work. Mass res doesn't work if anybody in the group is in combat. But I want to hit the cannon a little bit, get a roll the bones roll going, get some combo points. And then we're gonna go and engage Valyri here. This boss is another easy one. This is a nice time to let cheat deaths get back on cooldown, build up some battle reses. This is kind of the calm before the storm that is the last boss. Although it can get hectic if you don't have anybody in your group that knows how to do barrels. Luckily, we have one of those. It's not me though. I never do barrels. I'm a melee DPS. Basically, if it comes time for me to do a barrel, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong. And the main strategy is to move the barrels such that they're like stacked on top of each other and guaranteeing that you have a safe spot. So you'll want to move barrels outside of the edge of other barrel circles and inside, like so that they're right next to other barrels. And that way you deny as little space in the room as possible here. You'll see Venter moving that barrel out of line here so that we don't get a barrel exploding in the center of the room. And all the barrels are stacked on the edges of the room. That's going to mean that much of their circle is actually outside of the room, and it's going to leave us pretty safe here. We're going to leave those barrels that are in that corner to explode on this ignition cast, and just move over to this corner now. We're just watching to make sure that nothing bad happens. This Cinder Flame, for instance, you see Nerf picks up that barrel, and is going to make sure that it doesn't get hit by the Cinder Flame. And again, we're doing this kind of controlled burn thing where we're intentionally having barrels get hit just on the edges of the room where we're not, and we're making sure that we're never in danger of having a barrel deny us all the space in the room. Both Nerf and Venter are always looking out for that. Me, Kinbote, and Yoda are mostly just looking at our damage buttons. And it really does need to fall onto the tank and the healer. Maybe if you're in a lower key, if you're in a pug setting and you're a melee DPS, you can try to carry your group by doing the barrels. But in a higher key setting, our globals are more important than theirs. Like if we miss a damage global, it's going to be a lot worse than if they miss one of their globals. So it's really important that they're the ones sacrificing globals to do the mechanic, not us, and we just get to keep on tunneling our damage. And that's the reason for the strategy. That's the reason it's a healer or tank job and not a melee DPS job. You'll see here I hit another 5 buff. Pretty happy about that. Things are working out well, doing good damage as a result. People say Outlaw's bad at single target DPS, but if you bring 3 Outlaw rogues, chances are pretty good that some of them are going to hit some good buffs, and at least a few of them are going to look good on any given boss fight. So that's my feelings on Outlaw Rogue single target, I guess. I don't know. Outlaw Rogue single target is something that people think is worse than it is. It's actually quite good. The problem is if you make mistakes in the Outlaw rotation, you won't notice in AoE, but you will notice in single target. So people see Outlaw do insane AoE, and then they see the same player making the same mistakes, not looking insane on single target. Let me just talk about what I did just there. I got targeted by Fuse Lighter, and I clicked my Vanish ability. That's because we want the Fuse Lighter to target Nerf if possible, because he can spell reflect it back onto Valyri. So if it's going on any of the rogues, we're going to Vanish instead, so that it can retarget onto Nerf, and we can get a little bit more damage onto Valyri. That's a strategy that saves a couple seconds, because it'll do some damage to Valyri. Whereas that time it ended up going on Venter eventually. That's unfortunate. He obviously doesn't have Vanish or Shadow Meld because we're not playing Alliance, but if we were, we would do that too. Okay, so now onto this next bit. We're going to sap this Warden. Nope, we're not going to sap this Warden. Sometimes you sap this Warden, this time we're not. This time we're going to kill the Warden and these priests now, and then we're going to kill the other trash at the top of the stairs later. So we're going to kill these 3 mobs. That's going to get us most of the way to enemy forces, and then we're going to kill the last ones right at the end there. You'll see I missed my cannon shot there. That's pretty bad. You want to try and hit your cannon shots, but sometimes it doesn't always go according to plan. Just going to make sure that we get these 3 mobs, and then we're going to skip through the next ones because we don't want to trigger the Reaping Wave yet. We want to just do that after the last boss. But by doing a little bit of trash now, we're giving our combat pots a little bit of time to cool down. We're giving everybody's cooldowns a little bit of time to recover. And now it's going to be on Yoda here. None of us have sprint. If any of us did, we would go through, but we had a little communication. We're like, okay, nobody has sprint. Yoda just parry and run through. And then we're going to move on to this last boss here. Yoda's going to create some distance from those true sight mobs and then vanish, and then we're all going to move in here. One thing that this boss sometimes does is it this boss can do really annoying cast sequences, and the theory among the like high Mythic Plus community right now is that if you pull the boss with an ability, you're more likely to get these bad combinations of explosive bursts, multiple explosive bursts in a row. Whereas if you just walk up to the boss and the first thing that causes it to pull is just it sees you in melee range of it, rather than taunting it or throwing an axe at it or whatever, or charging at it, that makes it less likely to do that. That's the theory. I don't know how accurate it is. I've seen it do both things, regardless of how you pull it, but we ended up having a pretty good sequence of what they're called doubles. Basically, between each cross ignition, the boss can either do 1 or 2 sets of explosive bursts, and if it does 2, that's going to do a lot more damage to your group here. So you'll see this time, we got a single, where there's only 1 explosive burst between that cross ignition and this one. Now we're doing cross ignition Deadeye again. I'm soaking the Deadeye here. I'm just going to run back on up. This is bad. Sprinting there is bad. I should have just hooked up to where I was, so that I didn't end up using too much here. And before every damage instance of before the circle hits, I'm going to feint every time because it is AoE damage, so feint can reduce the damage from the initial hit of the explosive burst. And again, we don't have a Demon Hunter in this group, so we have to actually all take the damage from the Deadeyes. That's a big advantage to Demon Hunter in this place, is they can just Blade Dance every single Deadeye. But we don't have one of those, and none of our rogues are evasion either. We all have riposte instead of evasion, so you can dodge it, but you can't parry it. So we all have to basically either try and get lucky and natural dodge, or just actually take the shot here. As you can see, 2 minutes left on the clock for 2 chest here. We're at this point, we're like, oh my goodness, we can 2 chest this plus 26. But I may have spoiled it already. We don't quite make the 2 chest timer. We're like 15 seconds short or something. But this was really clean run. I mean, you can see there Yoda rolls a 5 buff, as he says, with the weaves in Ayaya. So yes, the fight here, we've each basically all got our positions. I'm standing up here where I can stand and still hit the boss because of Outlaw's increased melee range. Yoda's taking that kind of middle spot and is hooking back there every time. Kimbote is up on the other side, the mirror of where I am on the boss, and then Mentor's in the corner there. The reason we're standing up here is because they give us good spots to get knocked back into. If I need to, I can go get knocked back into that little fire brazier over there, or just right up against the wall. Once again, it's going to be, okay, this looks like it's Kimbote's soak on this one. And then I'll be taking one soon because my debuff has fallen off. I can soak a Deadeye again. Explosive Burst is on me here. My bar is pretty high, so we called for basically just me and Yoda to switch spots. Then I ended up getting stunned here, which is very bad. You don't want to do that. You got to be careful with your movement and not have that happen to you. I needed to hook back immediately instead of trying to run back, but I didn't do that, so that was very bad. Luckily, we were able to survive despite me making that error, losing 8 seconds of damage. At the end of the day, like I feel like the difference between the 2 chest and the 1 chest here, I feel like any of us could have made it up, but I definitely feel like if I had played better, we could have 2 chested this. I think if I hadn't done the Azurite swap thing, if I'd landed the distract on all 5 of the parasites instead of 4, if I had, done some of the skips like a little quicker, I could have maybe been more useful during the cannon phase. Maybe there's a way that, if either Nerf or Kinbote had made it so that Nerf didn't die during the cannon part, that would have also been enough. And yeah, if any of the 5 deaths we had didn't happen, those probably also would have all been enough to secure the 2 chests here. But you see, 20 seconds left on the clock. It's not quite going to be enough time, as we still have to go do trash here. You'll see we're hurrying. We're making our way over here, but we needed another couple seconds to make this into a 2 chest, which would have been insane. But that's okay. This is still the best run that anybody had this season. The single most points from a single run on Raider.io here, 467 or some absurd amount of points from a single run. We're really happy with it. We do feel like we could have done a 27 if we'd gotten one, but we didn't end up getting a 27 Tol Dagor to run, and we didn't keep running too much to try and farm that key. End of the day, though, very, very, very happy with this run. Extremely impressed. The entire group just very, very strong. There's that one snafu in the cannon area, but that happens. We made a bold play there. We were trying to make things go fast, and at the end of the day, we did go fast. And it was a great run. So that's Tol Dagor. That's how it was done back in season 2. For those of you watching this now later than season 2, that's the Tol Dagor strategy. That's why the cannons got nerfed. This is how we abused this dungeon back in the good old days. I hope that you guys all enjoyed watching this video, and remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, follow me on Twitter @Dratnos. check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Dratnos. Really just anything you can do, anywhere you try to find me. Hopefully I'll be there, you know. Also, check out my new podcast, the Titan Forge WoW podcast. We actually had Yoda on the show here a couple hours after this run. We actually had him on the show to talk about his win at the MDI, so that was really cool. Titan Forge podcast. We're on Spotify. We're also on this YouTube channel. We're on iTunes, and we're recorded live on Twitch. Anyways, this is it. The world's best run of season 2, I think, unless somebody makes me wrong in the next couple days here as the season ends. I hope you all enjoyed watching this. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.